Hello and welcome to the Power Tools for Coalitions webinar series. I am Kinkini Banerjee, the Senior Manager of Coalitions Relations at USBC, and I'm so glad to have you join us today. This Power Tools series is organized as part of USBC's training, technical assistance, and capacity building support for the network of state, territorial, tribal, and community breastfeeding coalitions across the nation. Access to these webinars is free and open to all interested breastfeeding coalition leaders, our national member reps, breastfeeding advocates, and to anyone involved in forming or leading nonprofit organizations in the breastfeeding field. All our announcements are sent through the coalition's announcement list. So as you know, we have the 222, which is hosted on even-numbered months, and this series occurs on odd-numbered months. So our announcements are sent through the coalition's announcement list, and details as well as the handouts and materials are posted on the Power Tools webpage on our website. And so it's www.usbreastfeeding.org/powertools, and I'm going to show you later where on our website it is. So as you know, to streamline access now, we have registration for the entire series. So you only need to, if you're not already registered, once you register, you know that you'll automatically get announcements about our upcoming webinars as well as reminders for them, and you'll also get a notice about the archives and evaluations. So this is to help you make sure that you have this on your calendar. We know that not everybody can attend live, so that's why all the sessions are recorded and you can access them at your convenience. To find archives, it's also on the Power Tools page. So here's how you go. If you go to our website, www.usbreastfeeding.org, look at the tabs across the top, and the last one is the one for coalitions. Click on that, and it'll show you all the different webinar series we have, the bi-monthly, the Power Tools, the collective impact, the racial equity. So if you click on the Power Tools webinar, you will be able to download materials for this session as well as our previous ones. A few logistical details. We have many participants on today's call, so we are all in listen-only mode, but however, this is a really interactive session, so we hope that you will be joining in as many ways as you can. We know that we've asked you to get a second device, so we hope that you will be actually doing hands-on practice during this session. So do send us questions either through the chat box or, as you will see, through your own, through Twitter. So if you have questions right now, you can use the control panel on the right side of your screen. You'll see a control panel. If it's minimized, just click on that orange tab with the white arrow, and it'll pop back out. If you scroll down under the audio tab, you see one which says questions. If you click on that blue tab which says questions, it'll open up a text box for you. And during this session, if you have any audio or technical questions, please send them to coalitions@usbreastfeeding.org or chat them in our boxes, and someone will be able to help you. So that brings us to today's topic, coalitions taking Twitter by storm. Today's webinar will focus on getting acquainted with Twitter and how it can be used to support your coalition's mission. This interactive tutorial is for all levels of social media users, and we start from the very beginning, setting up a Twitter profile, going through some basic orientation about the terms and how and whys of Twitter, finding and following breastfeeding organizations, how do you reach policymakers, and we will also be learning how to craft and manage the content. So I hope you will dive in and use this opportunity for hands-on practice and also get all your questions you might have about Twitter answered today. So I am thrilled to introduce two exceptional social media mavens from the USBC team. Lynette Anigbo is our PR and communications coordinator, and she comes to us with very extensive background in managing social media, graphic design, marketing, and advocacy. Lynette graduated from Indiana University with an undergraduate degrees in religious studies and African American diaspora studies, and also got her graduate degree from the School of Public and Environmental Affairs. She's passionate about helping women find the information and support they need to thrive. And informed by her experiences as both an undergraduate mother and advocate for maternal academic retainment and positive child development. In her role at USBC, Lynette corrals and curates relevant breastfeeding info, news, updates, resources for sharing through our various communications channel. So when you see the Wednesday Wire, or you see our social media, Facebook, and all, think of Lynette. Our second star is Cheryl, who's been with USBC since 2009. She is our second person after Megan, who's been with USBC the longest. And she started as a student. And since her time as a student and working mom, Cheryl has been committed to influencing the policies and systems that impact today's families. And she brings her extensive social media communications and technology experience to our team. She holds a bachelor's degree in English from the University of Illinois in Chicago. And Cheryl, in her role as the workplace project manager, is the steward for the workplace support constellation that has been formed to maximize the collective capacity of existing and new partners to promote and facilitate worksite compliance with lactation accommodation laws. So in her role, Cheryl supports this group, and she's building a key foundation piece for this work and inventory and analysis of all existing workplace laws. So state coalitions, you all are very familiar with Cheryl. She's the friendly face who answers a lot of your questions about state as well as federal workplace laws. Cheryl and Lynette are the main creative forces of USBC's communications and campaigns, from our National Breastfeeding Month to other advocacy initiatives and also our fundraising campaigns. So Lynette will be doing the presentation, and as the tutorial progresses, you will see that USBC tweeting things out, and as you post questions on Twitter, you will see the responses coming, and that will be Cheryl behind the scenes. So very glad to have both of you do this tutorial for us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lynette. Lynette, you might need to unmute.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Okay, so we're going to start. Thank you so much for that introduction, Kinkini. We're going to start with just talking about why Twitter is an effective tool for building, engaging, and informing your community. Because, well, Twitter allows you to have very direct communication, and mainly public communication with key stakeholders and supporters, as well as it allows you to have a platform for fundraising and advocacy efforts through the use of hashtags and the ability to embed links into the body of your tweet. So since you have this ability to embed links into the tweet, people are used to the idea of clicking on those links, and it's easy to direct traffic away from Twitter into your own web page or advocacy landing page. Last but not least, Twitter really allows you to stay on top of the latest news and trends that are important to not only the field of breastfeeding, but families, young individuals who are interested in breastfeeding. So help you sort of connect those dots and those lines of communication. So before we go in and really start talking about Twitter, we wanted to do a look at some of the key terms around Twitter, because you can't really talk about Twitter while skipping any of the jargon. It's full of a lot of jargon, but it's not hard to get down. So we want to start with a few definitions. First, we have a handle. So a handle is a username that has this @ sign in front of it. So that signals to the Twitter platform that this is something special, and it tells it to attach these words to your page. So this is, and it's also used to get attention of a specific Twitter user. And when you use it in that way, it's called a mention. So using a handle in the body of a tweet is called a mention because it directs the attention of the user to that tweet. So we'll see when we get into Twitter how that works a little more. There's also a retweet. The abbreviation is RT, capital RT, and it is a way to forward a message to your followers. So when you retweet a message, it regains all its original attributions, but it's a way to let people know that you want them to see this. So it shows up on your feed along with all of the other tweets that you've sent out. We also have a like. So a like is just really, it just means pressing the little heart button that you'll see under each tweet. This is significant because it's a way of indicating your support for a tweet without forwarding it to your followers. So it does show up in a different tab under your home page, but it's sort of separated. So it doesn't quite forward it to your followers, but it does let them know that this is something that you support and you like. Reply. So a reply is a way to respond directly to a tweet. So if you think of a tweet as the main tweet as a driving car, then then each reply is an additional attachment to that sort of train, right? So the main tweet is the head train, but all the replies are attached to it in using a line on Twitter. And we also have URL shortening. So URL shortening is a broad concept that describes a bunch of these different tools. You have tiny URL or bitty link, and these different web pages or softwares allow you to shorten a link. And the benefit of shortening a link isn't really about reducing the amount of space it takes up in a tweet, because as you know, a tweet only allows you to have 140 characters. It doesn't change the number of characters that the link is going to take up, but what it does is these outside programs attach software to the bitty link or the shortened URL so that you can keep track of who's clicking and where they're clicking from. So a lot of times you'll see organizations use this as a data gathering tool, not necessarily a tool it's not a tool to shorten the amount of space your link takes up in the body of your tweet. We have a hashtag. So a hashtag is pretty common. It's any word or phrase immediately preceded by this #. There cannot be a space in between your hashtag and your words or phrase. So if you have more than one word like paid family leave, you don't want any spaces in between. You want to keep it all one word or without any spaces, and then put your # right in front of it. And this is significant because it does a similar thing. It signals within Twitter that there's something different. This isn't an ordinary word, and it treats it different within Twitter. So you can go in and search for a specific hashtag. Often we'll see people use this for hashtagging their events or hashtagging a Twitter chat or a Twitter storm, so it's a way to really mark your tweet and get into a specific conversation. So we'll have more examples of that when we head on into Twitter. So related to hashtags, this idea of trending, hashtags and topics can trend based on an algorithm that kind of lets Twitter know what's popular. So it's about who's talking about a specific topic. So that can be a hashtag that's being used or just a topic in general that doesn't have the hashtag, because Twitter also tracks just individual words. So now that we have some basic communication down, we wanted to show you some examples of how this is used just to help get down the lingo before we head into Twitter. So this is an example of communicating with stakeholders and keeping on top of the latest news in the field. So here's an example from the California Breastfeeding Summit in 2016. You see, this is a pretty recent tweet. And We have a few different things happening here. We're going to start with the fact that a lot of times when people come to events like the summit, creating a hashtag allows people to engage. So then they can tweet about what's being said, or they can tweet about their experience with the event. And you as an organization can go back and search this hashtag and see the experience that people are having, see what they're taking away, what parts of the presentation are they choosing to tweet, and just sort of their overall interaction with the event that you've created. So it's a really great way to see what's happening from the eyes of someone attending your event or your program, or even experiencing your advocacy or fundraising campaign. So here we see the use of a retweet. So retweets can be done with or without an additional comment. So this is an example of a retweet without comment. So we see on the top that the California Breastfeeding Coalition has retweeted this. This tweet is from Postdoc Life, and we see her handle, right? So when we go into Twitter and we set up our page, when it asks you for your full name is going to come up right here in this bold. And when it asks you for a username, that's what will come up right here. And then Twitter will attach this @ symbol, and it'll become your handle. So when your handle is used in the body of a text message, or not a text message, a tweet, it's considered a mention, because this tweet will now show up in the notifications of these two, this individual and this organization that have been attached to the tweet. So it's a way to still have a public dialogue, but to call out specific people within that public dialogue. So calling their attention to this tweet. And then we see the use of a hashtag, which we discussed. So here's another example. This is a retweet with comment. So we see it comes up a little differently. We see that this is a retweet from USBC about our advocacy page. So usbreastfeeding.org/advocacy. So you see that here I saw this tweet, and it supported our advocacy around paid family leave. So just created a short tweet with, this is called a vanity link. I think vanity links work a little better, because suppose someone, even if they click on it right now and they go and they do the advocacy, if they're talking about it to someone else later, it's going to be really easy for them to remember where to direct their friends to go, right? So it's the memory of the link lingers, and I think that's a really important part of just getting your, especially advocacy, into people's minds. So we see that I added this comment on top of this original tweet by TED Talk. And one thing I could have done was added the lead on leave, which is a really popular hashtag around the campaign for paid leave. And what this would do is sort of elevate the visibility of this message past just the level of people who are following USBC. So another example, this is on building, engaging, and informing. And sort of the sweet spot on Twitter is figuring out how to use a small amount of resources or space to convey as much information as possible. And there are some really creative, the restrictions within Twitter actually create a lot, it spurns creativity and innovation, because you kind of have to use just what's in front of you. So there are a lot of really exciting things that they've built in to help you engage with the people around you. So here we have an example of a reply. So here's what I'm saying, here's what I was talking about in terms of, this is the head, the driving car, and then any replies are attached to it. This is great because you can reply to your own tweets. You cannot retweet your own tweets, but you can reply to your own tweets. So it's a great way to just sort of keep, if you have a group of tweets that have a similar topic, replying to your tweets actually helps it show up as one contained conversation on a user's feed, rather than getting broken up by anyone else, or the organization that tweets in between the time you get to send the next message. It attaches it all together. So it's almost like the Twitter equivalent of a paragraph is replying to your own tweets. And we also have an example of a like. And we have an example of someone retweeting. So here's where you'll see who's retweeted. And then here I use the reply to add mentions. Because in the body of this, since I added the advocacy link, use the @ symbol to sort of shorten what was happening here so I'd have enough characters. I wanted people to engage in this poll, so I just chose a few people to shout out and ask, please retweet. And this, as you use Twitter more, patterns start to arise in terms of people that are consistently engaging with your message. So it becomes easier to think of individuals who are consistently on Twitter and sort of engaging in these conversations. So at this point, we were hoping we've asked that you brought a second device. So at this point, if you could bring out that second device, we're actually going to be heading over to Twitter, and we're going to start from the very beginning and walk through some of the things that we've talked about. And also, if you're using a mobile device, your screen's not going to look exactly the same as my screen, because mobile devices are adapted for the smaller screen size. But everything that I'm talking about is going to show up on your screen, and when you get back to your home computer and you open up Twitter, it'll be the way that I'm describing it now. So with that being said, I'm going to head over to Twitter. So I've got it up for us, so it's just www, or just, actually you don't even have to put that, you can just put twitter.com and this should come up. I'm already logged. I try to do the remember login, but we're going to go in and sign up for a new account. So right here where it says full name, this is where your, this is that black, the bold black text that comes up next to your handle. So I'm going to put breastfeeding supporter, and we see that the check mark comes up, so that's available. And I'm going to use my email and just create a password. It's not going to be very strong. So here we see that there is this button, tailor tweets, based on my most recent website visits. I just have been clicking that off because we have sort of a niche here, and we really want to tailor it the way that we want to tailor it. So sign in. Even if you click this button right now, you really want to make sure to, if you're by a sheet of paper, write down what you chose your password to be, because you don't want to end up losing your password. So I'm not gonna choose to remember it for now. Also, it's a great idea to input your number into this, so that it makes it a lot easier for you to verify your accounts, and also if something were to happen to the account, it's an easy way for you to recover your password. So here is where you choose your username. This is what they're gonna place the @ sign in front of, and then turn it into your handle. Also, for all of this can be changed once we get into Twitter, so don't spend too much time panicking about what you want it to be. It's not set in stone. You can change it. For our demonstration, I'm just going to choose this and allow Twitter to sort of do its thing. Okay, so here we are. Popular accounts tends to give you a lot of pop culture. I want to start off with just following a few accounts so we can get an idea of how things show up on our feed. I'm going to go with nonprofits here and government and politics. Okay, so unselect all of these. We don't want to follow too many people because it adds up fast, and we don't want our feed to move too quickly. So Twitter Gov. All right, that's going to be a good start. Okay, so here we asked you to come prepared with an image for your profile picture. This image has Twitter suggests that it's 400 by 400 pixels. It's good practice. It's good common practice to make your profile picture and even your username as consistent across Facebook and Twitter as possible. So whatever you're using, whatever your organization's using for its Facebook page, it's a good idea to just drag that onto your desktop and then put it in as the image for your Twitter. It just really helps with recognition. I have this image over here on the side that I'm going to put in. You can make a few modifications. You can zoom it in, zoom it out, have it about there. And continue. It's another step worth skipping. Okay, so now we are in Twitter. We're just going to start with a quick overview of what this page is. So here we have our home row. This home row follows you anywhere that you are on Twitter. There's some so clicking here on this home will take you back to this page. Clicking here and clicking View Profile will take you to your profile page, which is the page that you see, that others will see when they click on your handle. So this feed is something that you're only going to see. This feed is specifically designed for you. It takes all of the tweets and retweets of the people that you are currently following and puts it into this thread right here so that you can see what's happening. Just scroll endlessly if you like. And then here we have a list of potential people to follow. As you search terms and search people on Twitter, it starts to gain an idea of what you're interested in. It really refines this tool here, and it actually becomes really helpful for helping you find new people to follow, but also just following the thread of who's following who. You know, how are networks connected? And I think that's a great sort of thing that Twitter does. It really helps you see connections between people. Here on this other side, we have what's trending. So we can see an example. So here we have, these are hashtags that are trending. It tells you how long they've been trending, just started trending, how many tweets are part of this, how many tweets have been tweeted with this hashtag. But here's an example of topics that are trending. So Twitter does consider just regular text. So it has algorithms that just look at text without the need for this hashtag. So you can change that. You can change here where you, like, if you are, you know, say you are in Chicago or you're a really Chicago-specific organization, you can change what you see, like what the algorithm uses to decide what's trending for you. So you can take it off national. We keep it on national. It is a handy tool because you can attach what's trending, and using trending topics when it works is a great way to get your message in front of new people that otherwise might not be thinking about your specific organization. Okay, so we're going to talk about just this feed. So first, there's this promoted tweet. I always dismiss these promoted tweets because when you hover over it, this comes up. It's really distracting. It's really easy. They are paying for these tweets, so Twitter makes it really visible. I like to just get those out of the way. So let's look at some examples of how tweets show up. So here's an example, a live example of this, what happens with the handle, why handles are significant. When you hover over the handle, you can see a little bit of his page, which includes his little bio, and then the ability to like his page or to start following his page without navigating away from your home page. So following someone is as easy as clicking that button, and unfollowing them is as easy as clicking the button again. So we have you can see a few examples of things that we've talked about in during the slides. But I think it's really important just to see what happens when you hover over this in a tweet, because we're going to head over to our sort of profile page. So our profile page, we can get to it by clicking on this image, or we can get to it from up here by clicking View Profile. So this is the page that people are going to see when they first click on your handle, but it's also, they get a little glimpse of this page when they hover over your handle when it's been mentioned in a tweet. And so the first thing that we want to do before we really get tweeting and get into the hands-on part of this, I want to show you how you can update your profile. So if we go over here, we're going to see the Edit Profile button. And we're going to see, so here, we can change this. So if I want to make it more descriptive for myself, I can say, okay, let's do breastfeeding media instead of breastfeeding support. I think that's a little, maybe, yeah, so that might be a little more supportive or descriptive. And here I can use the 140 characters to sort of talk about, or 160, it's 160 here to talk about who I am, what I believe in, what I do. This is a great place for your organization's mission. And we also have a place for your location and your website. So this is a great way when we're talking about advocacy and fundraising, because it's so easy to change this. If your organization starts an advocacy campaign or a fundraising campaign, you can include that in your bio and then change your website to go directly to the link for your advocacy or fundraising campaign. So it's just a really great tool. It's easy to adapt. So I really encourage you to use it in that way and really play with how you can use the space. Theme color, I actually am a big fan of theme color. So here we see that you can add a header picture. Header pictures are 1,500 megapixels by 500 megapixels. And usually to get a really good header picture, you're going to want to have a designer go in and take those measurements and create something for you. And you don't always have the time for that. And rather than stressing out about what to put in your header picture, you can use the theme colors to use one of your branded colors. That's what USBC does. So we use our sort of deep red in our top header photo. And then that way when we do change it, it really stands out more and we can play with that in a like directed way. So we are knowing that we're doing this for a really specific reason, for a specific occasion. And so that works out really well. So don't underestimate the importance of the theme color there. It can save you a lot of stress. Birthday, you can put your organization's, founded day there if you would like to. So we're just going to save some changes. So hopefully, as we go, you have some time to get your information in there. We are going to head back over to the home page and show you how to send your first sort of tweets. And then we're going to do an exercise on tweeting. And then during that time, you'll be able to ask questions and we can sort of figure out where everyone is. So here are two different places that you can send tweets. So you can type an original tweet in here and you can type an original tweet in here. So the difference between original tweets, we're gonna let me take the time and right now I'll follow US breastfeeding. So we're gonna head over to their page and follow them so that I can have some things to tweet and retweet. So right now we are actually on a Twitter storm, this Pregnant at Work Twitter storm. So we'll be seeing a lot of tweets from USBC with this hashtag Pregnant at Work. So I can go ahead and I can like a tweet, I can retweet a tweet, I can retweet without comment for this one just to show you what that does, and I can retweet, let's see. Oh, look, and we have a new follower. So here we see that USBC has started following us and it pops up in our notifications. So we'll head into our notifications later, and I can reply to this tweet and it'll show you. So when we hit reply, if we're replying to a certain tweet, it puts in the person that we're tweeting it, that tweeted it, and any other mention so that we can reply to everyone, sort of like a reply all on email. Oh, we have another. So here we can do this. So we got a tweet. using the hashtag coalitions tweet. So later on when we start tweeting, we'll hope you use this coalitions tweet hashtag so we can explore how that flags your tweets. So we can retweet this. And so I haven't gone into to verify my page, so it's giving me this error message. I'm actually just going to refresh. And a lot of times, sometimes you get these error messages on Twitter and you just want to refresh because it actually does. See, it did what it told me it wasn't letting me do. So before you get yourself all worked up, go ahead and just refresh it. And that's just a general rule of thumb. When something goes wrong on Twitter, just refresh. And it's 9 times out of 10, it's actually totally fine. So I want to reply to this with a comment just so that you can see. I'm not really sure. Well, okay, so let's just look at how this is showing up. So right now we see that we are the ones that retweeted this message from USBC. We've also retweeted this message, and we can see how it kind of shows up on our feed. So these are not original messages, right? So now I want to show you how to send out an original message. We can actually do that from here since this bar stays with us. I'm going to use a hashtag because this message doesn't necessarily have anything about leave, but I want to go ahead and add that. And it might be, if I'm interested in this tweet storm that's happening, I could add pregnant at work so it comes up so that people there know, hey, you know, I'm interested in this and I want to connect. So I'm going to use that as a way to send my first tweet. And we'll see how using these 2 hashtags sort of helps us gain visibility. Oh, and you know what? Here's a great example. So once you send a tweet, you cannot edit this tweet. But I just thought to myself, you know what? I actually should have used Coalition's tweet, right? So I'm going to copy it. So I've copied it, and I'm going to delete this entire tweet. And I'm going to tweet it again. So I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to add the Coalition's tweet hashtag at the end and retweet it. All right, so we'll see how those work. So right now we're just going to take some time and give you guys the opportunity to sort of engage with Twitter. This is a great time to send out your first tweets. Please use the hashtag Coalition's tweet because we're going to head over there and look at what's happening with that. And we're also asking that if you can add as many mentions as you can or add links, just to really practice using it in different ways so then if you run into any issues, you can ask. So we'll take about 2 or 3 minutes for that.
Lynette, this is Kinkini. We have a question. Can you show again like how to reply and how to retweet? Just which is the reply icon and which one is the retweet icon?
Absolutely, absolutely. So here is the retweet icon. It's sort of, to me, it looks like the recycle sign, and in a lot of ways, it kind of is the recycle sign. You're going to take this entire tweet and put it on your page. So I undid it, and I'm going to do it again. And you know that it's worked. So I can add a comment. I'm going to choose not to, but I'm going to retweet without comment. And now it's this bright green. And this bright green lets me know that I've retweeted it. When someone else retweets it, there's just a number next to it, and it's not bright green. So when I hover over it, it turns bright green. But even when I'm not hovering, you can see that for this latest tweet that someone has retweeted it and someone else has liked it. And then for replying, we can click here and see let's show that again. So this button, it looks really similar to the reply button on your email probably. So you click this, and it's great because it says, okay, you're replying to USBC, so it creates the mention for you. And then I can put, okay, and you can tweet that out, and lets me know that it's been sent. And then eventually it'll pop up here, and I'll be able to see my reply hitched to the USBC's original tweet. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm gonna go over and we're gonna talk about notifications because hopefully people are tweeting. Are there any other questions, Kenny?
No, none at this time.
Okay. Well, we're gonna see if anyone has directly tweeted me. Oh, so we have a few others. Thanks for the follow. So this notification panel here is a great place. This is actually where I start my social media days. Getting to the notifications panel is amazing because it tells you who followed you, who retweeted you, who liked something that you said, and it also actually has a special tab for mentions. So part of getting that texture and that communication is being able to have those mentions and really have the replies, and it becomes more of a conversation when you start using mentions and replies. So Twitter knows this, so they have a special tab for mentions. So I can go in, and if someone mentioned me in a tweet, I can make sure to engage in that tweet in some way. If it's liking it, if it's retweeting it, if it's replying to it, just letting them know that, hey, I appreciate that you've spoken to me directly and I'm taking an action. And sometimes this is a way where people will ask you questions using this mention. So it might be a signal that an action is needed. So we're going to head back to notifications because we're actually, it's interesting that this pops up. So based on what I've said about myself, based on like my handle and the hashtags that I'm using, someone has decided that I would be good for their equal pay list. So we're actually going to head over and we're going to talk about lists because lists are a really great way to find organizations to follow, and also they're used for advocacy in really interesting ways. So we're going to head over to the USBC homepage. So here we see, these are the final results, 20 people voted. So that's great. So we see how that sort of ended up working out. We're going to head over to lists, though. So lists, right here, if we click on it, we are going to get a list of all of the things that either USBC is subscribed to. So here, this list is from Twitter Gov, for instance, and USBC subscribe to it. Oh, look, we got another follower, so breastfeeding. So right here, okay. So we can follow them back. And we see, so we're going to go to the Breastfeeding Coalition's one because hopefully by the end of this day we'll have a lot more organizations to follow here. We see that right now there are 21 members in this organization, and this is a feed of just the member organizations of this Breastfeeding Coalition's list that USBC has created. Using lists is a really great way to hone in on topics and curate your feed so that you're getting really specific information. So rather than coming up here and searching for breastfeeding, for instance, you might want to see what are coalitions specifically saying about anything. So you can go in, and this is a really quick way to do it. And when we subscribe, we'll go over and see what happens. So you can subscribe to anyone's list. And lists can be public or private, but once you make your list public, so this is a public list, then anyone can subscribe to it. So we see here there are 21 members, and I'm going to click here. And see, it shows you all the members, but you can also just go down and follow. So if you're a new coalition and you want to follow all the other coalitions, you can go ahead to this list and just go all the way down and follow. And then make sure to send a message to USBC letting us know that you're here so that we can add you to this list and follow you. Yeah, so.
Lynette, there's one more question. This is Kinkini.
Sure.
We have a question about how do you attach a picture to your tweet. Will you be
Oh,
talking about that later?
yeah, I will. I can do that right now. Let's head over, and then I can show you that. Um, so we're going to go back to our home page. Actually, I'm going to use here and go to our profile so here we can go back to our profile, or we can go straight to our list. From here, I'm just going to show you, because I want you to see here. So now we have one list. Even though we are not the curator of the list, it says by USBC, we have, we can get to the exact same page. If we click here, it'll take us back to the page that we were just at with the USBC list. But we're actually going to be a member of a list, right? So this tells you, it's a description of the list, so it tells you how are people viewing you, how are they categorizing you within their Twitter universe, So I think this is also, the members of is a great way to sort of see, how are people engaging with you, how are they viewing you. So with that being said, we're going to head back over to home, and I'm going to show you how to embed an image into your tweet. I saw a tweet earlier. Okay, I thought it might work, but so I have a few images up here. I'm a big fan of these. So I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to use the hashtag. Oh, let me show that again. So I'm going to take this off. So when you're here, the easiest way to embed an image is actually just, if it's on your desktop, you can just drag and drop the image. So see, it changes here, and you can just put it in, and then it's there. And it's really just, it's that simple, or it can be that simple. You can also click on this button, and then that takes you to that, I'm not really sure what to call it, that little box where you have to go through all of the pictures, go through all of your files. I want to go into my desktop and then go into this folder that's into my desktop and then into that. And it's actually, I find it for social media, the way that, so I purposely didn't clean up my desktop too much, although most of my files are in here. But I like to keep a range of images on my desktop just so that I see them. Because for me, being able to just see it out of the corner of my eye reminds me that, oh, what can coworkers do? So if we're talking about, being pregnant at work, what can coworkers do kind of works well with that. So when a tweet pops up where I can use the image, then I can quickly put the image in. So I like to do the drag and drop. It's a lot less stressful. Do you think that answers the question, Kinkini, or?
Yes, thank you, Lynette.
Okay, awesome. So, okay, so we did the idea. So there are a few other things that Twitter sort of allows you to do in terms of capabilities of your tweets. We can talk about that as well. Let's make sure that we have enough time to go through all of the tweets, and then if there's time at the end, we can go back and talk about some of those things. So a few things that I wanted to mention is we're going to go and check out and this is going to let us know how it's going. I'm going to see. So I know there aren't a lot of questions, so I will see if people have been tweeting. Oh, look at this. This is nice. So hopefully you are sort of seeing your tweets. I'm going to follow. Oh, okay. That didn't work as well. We can do that way too. So clicking here. So we really didn't get the time to do this. So you go back and just sort of see what's happening. And so you can see that because you use the hashtag, it made it a lot easier for me to just go through and see what's happening. And so we have, this is the top, it separates it. So Twitter likes to curate your views for you just to help you sort of sift through what you want to see exactly. So the top means that it's going to list the tweets that have the most interaction or engagement. Then live, this is the view that we use for Twitter chats and storms. So a Twitter chat is a conversation. So you have one or two lead organizations, and they might ask questions, and they have designated a hashtag like Wellness Wednesday. And they'll ask questions, and then you can go in and answer your questions and answer those questions and use the hashtag. Or like what USBC is participating in right now, a Twitter Storm, is where you just sort of almost try to get it trending. Like you are just putting as much information and dialogue about a specific topic into the universe as possible. And so just allowing people to, and it does, if you haven't participated in it, I really encourage it because it's really exciting, tends to be really friendly, and you can sort of go through like I did right now and like people's tweets, and it just feels really great. It feels great to have 3 likes on, you know, what might be your first tweet. You know, so it really is a way to sort of engage with your community and see the community building potential of Twitter. So with that being said, I want to do what for me has been a revelation in terms of figuring out. In the morning, I tend to search breastfeeding, and so you see breastfeeding with the hashtag comes up, but I'm actually going to search breastfeeding without the hashtag is what I wanted to do. Because since Twitter keeps track of all of the words, searching breastfeeding without the hashtag actually gives you everything. So it gives you all the tweets that have breastfeeding without the hashtag, as well as breastfeeding with the hashtag. So here we go. So we have an example of breastfeeding with the hashtag here. So that was a huge revelation for me, so I can sort of see everything. And then when I want to, usually people who have used the hashtag are I don't want to say in the community, but much more sort of like advocacy practitioners, like CDC and people who are consistently engaged with breastfeeding advocacy and support. So that's just a great sort of thing to know, and it also helps you understand why the hashtag is so important for events and advocacy campaigns, because it really sends out a strong signal that something specific is happening here. It's almost, and it's additionally a way to brand your event or campaign.
Lynette, this is Kinkini.
Yes.
Can I interject for a second? So
Sure.
Can you go to your page and refresh once folks are tweeting and they want to see if it's shown up, or if they replied, is it really coming up? Have they done it right? So if we could go back and
So
see
are we
who's
going?
on.
Are we going back to the coalition's tweet hashtag?
Yeah, coalition's
Okay.
tweet hashtag, please.
So we're going to go back to coalition's tweet. And yeah, we see more. So hopefully, and everyone that's tweeted, I'm going to take it up off top. Top can be deceptive because it's really about engaging. And so it's interesting. You see, like just because something has a like or a retweet doesn't necessarily mean it has the most engagement, because I can click on this and not do anything, and it'll count that as me being engaged. So we're going to go to live, and it's going to do it in real time. So now we can see in real time who's tweeting. So is there anyone who feels like they're trying to get themselves here and it's not working? Is that what we're sort of running into?
Yeah, I think folks had sent their tweets and wanted to know if it was showing up on your feed. And also, there was one question about, can you use a picture from another person's tweet without retweeting?
Okay, so if yes, I can. And actually, that's actually how I got these two images. So let's go to CDC. I'm a big fan of the CDC's just Twitter engagement. They use a lot of images, and I can see how. So I clicked on something with an image, and I'm gonna drag it to the left side on my left so that you can see how that works. I'm just gonna click it, and I'm gonna drag it, and I'm gonna drop it on my desktop, and then we're gonna see it appear on this side. Did that work for everyone? Were you able to see that, Kinkini?
Yep, I tried.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So that's probably one of my favorite features in general, besides the shortcuts to cutting and pasting. So you can just take any image, and that's also actually, it brings up a good point. That's why it's important to brand your images. So you see in the body of the image, CDC has put a vanity link. So this is another vanity link, and their logo, so that when I do that, if I decide I want to tweet something about Zika and I drop it in, it's going to show all of their information. So they don't lose. It benefits them, right? So rather than feeling like I stole intellectual property or something like that, it is a way to keep recycling, keep using their images, keep putting that out there. It's still gonna show that it's their image. It's still gonna show everyone their vanity link. So it becomes actually a great practice.
Lynette, can you clarify what a vanity link is for our audience?
Okay. A vanity link. So we've talked about the shortening, URL shortening. So here's an example of URL shortening. So this is still on the CDC page. Actually, they did it up here. And so some URL shortenings allow you to still know that you can trust the link. So this just took whatever the long link was and condensed it significantly. It doesn't necessarily reduce the number of characters that you're using in a it doesn't, actually not necessarily, it does not reduce the number of characters that your tweet uses, but it cleans up the presentation, and it allows you, not all the time, a lot of these softwares, there's one called BittyLink and TinyURL. So it allows you to track clicks. So if I were to click on this, they might have a software attached to this link that tells them, I clicked on it from Twitter at this time on this day. So it's just a way to gather information about where your traffic is coming from. Personally, and you can see that when it came time to put a link on the image, the CDC chose to use a vanity link. A vanity link also cleans up the image of the link. It doesn't necessarily shorten it, though. So you can see that this one is probably much shorter than this, although maybe not at all, because the word is Zika and the web page itself is pretty short. So ours is US breastfeeding, so it might not actually shorten it. It just makes it look pretty. So it's called a vanity link because it looks really nice, and I personally love them because you could walk away from this screen and you could start having a conversation with your friend, and they say something about Zika, and you say, oh, you know what, you can go to the CDC's website and it's /Zika. So it's so easy to remember, and you don't necessarily have to sit down and start sort of thinking about, like, oh gosh, where can I go to find this information? It'll pop back in your memory because it's so digestible. Versus this, where I have no idea what that is, and I'm not going to be able to remember that. I don't know where it goes. So if I don't click on it now, I'm going to have to come back here to figure out where I should be going. So that's my in-depth explanation of those. Perfect. I think that's a pretty important distinction, though.
Yeah. And thank you. And you can see we use that in a lot of ours when we direct you to Power Tool pages. Instead of giving you a whole bunch of letters and numbers, we say usbreastfeeding.org/Power Tool, so that the vanity link just is so much more clear about the destination. So if you had some suggestions for folks who are using their mobile devices, there are some who says, how do you drag a picture when you're using your phone? It's different from here. So would you be able to address that, Lynette?
Sure. I'm actually going to, I always use Twitter on my phone, and honestly, when you get on the Twitter app on your phone, at the bottom, there's going to be like this square with the pen on it is going to be there, and then there's going to be an image, or like not an image, it's a little camera. That's where you can take a picture. And then on the other side, on the right side, there's like a little landscape photograph. When you click there, it actually takes you, it'll ask you based on like what type of phone you have, it'll take you directly to your photo gallery. So often if I'm using Twitter on my phone, I have to be really, it takes much more thought if I want to do something like add a picture, because then I have to go into, so I have Dropbox on my phone, so I would go into the USBC Dropbox, download any pictures that I want to use, and then it would be on my phone, and then I can use that. Personally, I almost never ever do that because it's really tedious. You have to use a bunch of different screens, and it makes it much more frustrating. So we'll go into sort of have a lot of tips for how do you plan out and use it in a way that doesn't stress you out or make you feel overwhelmed. And honestly, especially if you're new to it, I would not recommend doing the images through your phone, just because there's so much work that has to be done before you can even do that properly. Usually when I'm doing Twitter just on my phone, I'm retweeting and liking and sending out tweets. I really like to do just sort of live figuring out what's going on in the field on my phone, so then that way you can be mobile with it. But the bulk of your setup, especially if you're using it as an organization and you want to be tweeting consistently or constantly, is something called Hootsuite that we're going to talk about. So actually, I can head over and start talking about sort of those sort of things after I just show you. We talk about direct messages and then your settings. How does that sound? Kenny, are there more questions or? No? Okay. I'm going to head over to messages. So this is just quick. Direct messages allow you to talk privately. That's pretty much the beginning and end of it. We can send USBC a message so you can see how it works. I'm going to see. And so we see that this is a conversation that not everyone can see. There are a few different ways that you can use this, because you can embed. So I could share this in a direct message if I wanted to. And when I send it to USBC, it will attach that message, and I can add a comment. So I ask, like, should we share this, or will you share this? So we see that it actually attaches the tweet. So just a few different things that you can do there with direct messages. Make the conversation a little more private. Now we're going to go over, so we see that this has lists, but settings is the last really important thing I want to show you. Here, remember I said, you can change your handle. So I can change my handle here, and it'll tell me if it's available. So here we see that now that I've changed my handle, it sort of changes my quick link to Twitter. I can change my email address. So if you go through a branding change, or you realize that maybe the handle that you chose doesn't best represent you, you can change it without losing all of the community and effort that you've put into your current Twitter page. So for me, this is a huge sigh of relief. It's not permanent. And again, Twitter moves really fast. So same thing when you're doing tweets. If you feel like, oh man, everything has to be perfect, it really doesn't. You have another chance. You can always send out a new tweet. So we'll talk about that also some more. Just to finish up here, we have the security and privacy notifications. An important notification is your direct message. Receive direct messages from anyone. You can click that, and then anyone, even if they're not following you or you're not following them, then you can they can still message you. And we have the email notifications, so you can turn off your email notifications if you don't want that to whatever email account is attached to this. And then we have web notifications. Also have the option of muting and blocking accounts. Muting just means that you can't see everything that person posts, because maybe they're posting too much or you just don't want to. And then blocked accounts is, hopefully you won't have to use this, but it just means that the person just can't, engage with you anymore. Last, we have some design, just some quick design things that you can do. But it's important to remember the security and the account information and password. Probably the main features in email notifications. So with that being said, I'm just going to head back over to the slideshow. If there are any more questions, just go ahead and let me know.
Sure, Lynette. Thanks.
Okay. So we're going to talk about some crafting a great tweet. So again, Twitter is really using the little bit of that it seems like they're giving you and getting innovative, getting creative, and figuring out what can I do to get more across. But you do want to keep in mind users on Twitter are not used to reading a whole lot on the Twitter interface. When they want to read more, they will click on a link. So that's why the links are important. If they're interested, then they'll click on the link. But conveying as much information in a streamlined manner is the beauty of Twitter. That's really the sweet spot. So we see this 1,000 days. Actually, they're having their March for Nutrition is the hashtag right now, and they're doing a lot of really great tweets around nutrition. Same thing with APA and poverty reduction. So there's a lot of great hashtags going on, a lot of great images going along with those hashtags and campaigns that really help them stick to your memory. So really getting sticky content is what a great tweet sticks to you. So here's one that I really like from from February. So it really has stuck with me. And I just love this image. It's really bright. You get a lot of information, and you sort of understand. You can say, yes, I agree with that. I want to meet that. I think this is great, and you can like it or retweet it. So just sort of quick statements that people can quickly decide, am I for this? Do I want to share this? And continue scrolling is what will happen most of the time. So here are some tweets. So in the spirit of, so in the spirit of not getting too stressed out about crafting these, I think the idea of crafting this amazing tweet can be really daunting, especially because you're not always going to have an image. You might be on your phone. What do you do? Is it still going to work? So these tweets are examples of, yes, it's going to work. So here, this is an example of something that was trending, things Lincoln didn't say. So I was like, okay, here's something, So, and it worked out. So we have some retweets and some likes, and then this article came out in the Boston Globe about, the maternity wards moving away from nurseries, and that, sometimes tweets just stand out for themselves. Something that as you tailor your audience or people start to follow you for specific reasons, you start to know what's really going to work for them. And I can say, hey, you know what? This tweet worked out really well. Maybe next time I will use a shorter URL. If there's enough space, I might take out the mentions of Boston Globe who wrote the article and maybe do a different mention. But like I said, Twitter can recognize words without hashtags, right? So the fact that it has maternity in it, if someone just searched maternity, this tweet would come up, right? So, and it's important, so you can also think to yourself, gosh, I'm sending these tweets and they're not getting likes, they're not getting retweets, or they're just getting one retweet or one like why isn't anyone viewing this? But you can actually go right here. So if you see these 3 little bars, when you click that, it'll actually give you a little short summary of the engagement that this tweet is having. So it'll tell you exactly how many impressions this specific tweet had. It'll tell you how many people liked it, how many people reshared it, and who those people are. So it just gives you a lot more of an understanding of how are people really engaging with this, and even if they're not doing these visible actions. So I really encourage you to look at those, because when I went back to see, these 2 tweets actually had a similar number of, similar amount of engagement. Okay. It's not allowing me to go to the next one. I'm not sure.
It's not allowing you to advance your slide, is that what you said?
Yes. It's just, do you see my mouse at all?
I do.
Okay, now I see my mouse. Okay, now it went. Okay. So let me make sure. Yep, this is the next slide. Okay, so we have another great example of using the reply to really continue engaging in a broader conversation. So we have an example here, and I really like this example because I think it really shows you that the scope of people that are on Twitter, and also just how Twitter is almost, in a lot of ways, it really equalizes the playing field, right? So it gives everyone a chance to engage in a conversation, but it also puts you in really direct conversation, communication with people that might seem out of reach. So I really like this because you can sort of see that, she's here, she's engaging, she's mentioning. So it's possible, using it enough, it's possible to gain a critical number of followers to really get your message out there. And I'll go back to one of the amazing things about Twitter is that Twitter doesn't curate the feeds of other people the way Facebook does. So you may have noticed that if you post too much on Facebook, it'll stop showing your posts on as many feeds as possible. So just because you have 15,000 followers doesn't mean that it's going to even put it on the news feed of 15,000 people in general. But with Twitter, it's really just a matter of if they scroll down far enough or if they're on Twitter when you send your tweet. Twitter doesn't say, you know what, we're not going to put your tweet on their feed. And so it really, and I encourage you to see that as something that's really, really exciting, because you don't have to do as much calculating as you have to do for Facebook in order to make sure that your voice is heard. So we're going to go to the tips. So our main tips are collect your tweets in advance. So we develop a master list of content. I use, with a note-taking software, I use something called Simple Note, and it strips all of the, bold or any of those sort of things, and strips it away and it makes it just plain text for me. And I use that, and when I'm doing, like when the Weekly Wednesday Wire, when I'm doing that, or when it comes out, I can cut and paste things into there, or I can copy links into there. I can even just copy the titles of news articles and put them in there. And anytime resources come out, I can put that into a long list so it's just there, so that when I'm ready to use it, I can. Because some things, like for instance, we have a specific sort of term we call evergreen. So what is your evergreen content in terms of resources that you just have available on your website that you don't want to forget to push out as days roll by and you're working on fundraising campaigns, or you're working on advocacy? If it's not directly related to that, you don't want it to fall through the cracks, because so the lifespan of a tweet is about 20 minutes, and that doesn't mean that no one's going to see it after 20 minutes. It just means that by 20 minutes, enough people will have tweeted something else that the person most people aren't going to scroll down far enough. So you'll still see engagement with tweets after 20 minutes. It's just that after that point, it's sort of it's half-life. So so you just want to make sure that, so that gives you a lot of playing room. So as you're tweeting out about your advocacy campaigns, you can also slide in a tweet about your emergency breastfeeding resource, because really, there's enough turnover for all of those messages to find an audience, without you constantly having to put out the same message in order to keep giving content that people might find appealing. So it just helps you develop a wide range of content, or just a lot of different content about the same topic, which we do sometimes as well. So this one, scheduling your tweets in advance, is the most important thing. I can't stress enough how important it is to schedule tweets in advance. We use it's a software called Hootsuite, so it's hootsuite.com. It's pretty minimal. I think it's less than $10 a month is what we pay for it. We use one login, so we have the cheapest package, so we have it saved in one document so everyone can see this password at one time. So I have it logged into my computer, and that's it. And it allows us to schedule tweets at any time of the day, right? So then that way I'm not constantly on edge trying to schedule a tweet. So when I pick up my phone, I know that I can say to myself, okay, I haven't scheduled tweets right now because I'm going to be on this Twitter storm. So I'm just going to be retweeting things for this Twitter storm, and that's the best way for me to do this. Or I need to get to my desktop because I want to be able to really type out a lot of different tweets. So it really helps you to sort of plan out what's your week going to look like. If you're going to have a lot of meetings, you can schedule a tweet so that you're not, while you're sitting there at your meeting, you're pushing content out, right? And then you can get back to your desk and figure out, okay, what happened to this content? Who touched what and who liked what and who followed me and who can I follow? So that's something that can't stress enough, the importance of just taking some of the pressure off of the need to constantly be tweeting. And I actually have an image of Hootsuite. So here is an image of last week's what we were tweeting. So you can kind of see that I try to vary it and just have fun and figure out, play around with what are some of the best times for my specific audience? How do things change based on how many tweets I'm sending? And you can see I send a lot out because I found that the more that they're sending a lot of tweets really did make a difference for us. Made a difference in terms of how much people were engaging with our message, how much our list of followers was growing. So I try to schedule as many tweets as I can, and Hootsuite doesn't allow you to schedule the exact same tweet more than once in a day. So I think that also kind of helps you make sure that you're not tweeting the same thing over and over and over, but you can tweet the same thing once every single day and put it at different times just to try to hit different audiences. I also wanted to show that we actually try to tweet, so you'll see there's a tweet up here pretty early. I do try to tweet early in the morning because there aren't a lot of people on Twitter early in the morning, but we all know, especially when you're talking breastfeeding, there are a lot of moms up doing nighttime feedings. They're up at 3 a.m. doing a feeding, and they're probably on their smartphone. There aren't going to be a lot of other people tweeting at that time, so it's really high probability that you'll get in front of them. So that's a great time for advocacy links or just resources for them specifically. I try to push out our emergency breastfeeding at that time because personally I think that's a really important thing, and it's one of those things that you want to know before the emergency. So talked as fast as I could, and so that's all that I really had to make sure that I got through. So if there are any more questions.
I do. So since you specified that Twitter is just so much for two-way conversation too, can you tell us a little bit about how you've used polls, the polling option, Lynette?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we are, polls are actually what I find the most exciting about Twitter right now. Oh, look, someone reused the picture. So it's nice to see those sort of things happening. I'm going to head up to the USBC page so I can show you this poll. So here's an interesting, I pinned this tweet to the top of the page just to make it consistently visible. I'll actually show you how to do that before we get it because it's a handy tool. I can take a tweet that I've tweeted, and this is great if you have, again, like an advocacy campaign or something like that that you want to make sure people see. You can click this little ellipse, and you can pin to your profile page, and it'll allow you to pin, and then you can view it. So now it's pinned to the top. No matter what happens below here, this will stay up there, so it really puts it out in front of people. Yeah, so sorry, I just wanted to get that out to you because it's a great option. So here we see a poll. Use this poll because I sort of wanted to help people get some information to people about, we say these really abstract things, or people feel like, they might not realize how close to home it hits or how just making data more palpable, right? So I asked people, how many weeks of paid leave did you or do you have with your most recent child? Just to sort of help people understand that this is a really important issue because I added our advocacy link. And this is probably, I use this link often. And so I just wanted more sort of attention towards this. So I'm going to, so I can see that this was the results. So pretty good engagement, 20 votes. 10 retweets, and 1 like. So it really allows you to sort of, you're having them engage with the actual tweet in a different way, right? And then you can sort of inform them. Most people had 0, right? So that stands out to you. It stands out more than just me saying, 5 or 2 in 5 women have 0 weeks of paid leave or something like that. It's like, oh, okay, but when you see the results of a poll, you're like, wow, women have just come across this and said, oh yeah, I had 0 weeks, or I just had 1. And we see that this poll also shows you that either people really didn't have paid leave, And then, or they had what in American standards is a lot of weeks of paid leave, right? So you have 21 weeks of paid leave, which, you know, when 45% of women say they have 0, the fact that 30% have more than 21 shows you that there's also a disparity, right? So people can really start to like engage with what's happening here and get a little fired up to actually click on this link and take action. And so I'll show you how to use polls, because, you know, recently I saw the CDC do a poll on Zika. So they used the reply tool to give a Zika quiz. So they just asked a few, I think about 5 different questions on Zika. And I imagine that this is also a really great way for them to gather information about their audience, to see where do they need to put more, what topics or what aspects of Zika need more coverage, right? So they can test public knowledge. So I was really excited about that, and just thinking, you know, as a coalition, you can say, you know, how many people are planning on attending this event, or what was your experience? Like, how did you like this training? So we'll do that. So did you find this training helpful? And we can do, we know that we wanted to hit a certain audience, right? So I'm going to put coalition's tweet because I want you all to be able to find that quickly. Make sure I put my question mark. Oh, you know what? I'm going to need to copy this. So I highlight it, and I press Command-C, and that copies. And I can click here where it says Add Poll. Oh, okay. Then I wasn't sure if it would delete it, so I went ahead and copied it. And I'm going to put yes, and then no. And I can change the length of the poll. So I'm going to have it a 2-day poll, and then I can tweet. And we might send out a similar thing from the USBC homepage. Once we can get in there and sort of follow everyone that's part of this and see where we're at, we can send out a poll like that. But so if I go back to my homepage, you'll be able to see how it shows up. So if you go to this, if you click on Coalition's tweet right now, okay, so I want to go back because I'm going to copy, I'm going to delete, so I want to redo that so it actually shows up. Two days. Okay. So this is a great example of when you want to use the live, right? Because I just sent this out. So if we hit live, where, oh, did I do it again? Huh. You know, I feel like for me, I have a hard time when it's all one situation. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, here you go. All right, took a little bit, but there it is. So we want to go to live. And so now you see I can't answer the poll because it's my poll, but anyone can go on, and you want to go on and see, because it's really easy for you to answer this tweet. And it really just sort of helps you gain information. Oh, see, live. Really exciting. So it really helps you gain information about what's happening, get a pulse, gather information, help people feel more connected to what's happening. Oh, yes. Awesome. Thank you. So you could do that and retweet. I'm going to refresh because it gave me that error message again. Oh, that's really nice. It's really nice seeing everyone's things sort of come in. I hope you're having a similar feeling where you're like, wow, this is really great. So it's great to see that engagement. So there you are. And, you know, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lynette.
The last thing I was going to say is when you do something like this, once it's sent out, you can also keep thinking about how can I engage with this. Like, for instance, I could reply to this and ask and, you know, do more mentions. I could have mentioned the USBC, or I can add more information and say, you know, don't miss the racial equity webinar coming up, you know, something like that, because you already sort of have this momentum going. So also just thinking about ways that once you've sent out a tweet and you see that it's working and it's engaging, what else can you do to build on the momentum of that tweet? So that's something that I also encourage. I appreciate you guys, you know, coming and taking the poll.
Thank you, Lynette, for a terrific presentation. And like you've told us many times before, that this is just scratching the surface of all that's possible in Twitter. And we've heard from our audience too that will there be a continuing education about that, because, you know, it's so much to possibilities and so much to do. So we want to make sure that, you know, today's session is recorded and will be posted, but also that we will be planning to do continuing Twitter tutorials so that, you know, we can all learn together. So thank you again. And that brings us to the end of today's session. For those of you, I think we've tried to answer every single question that came our way, but if we haven't, we'll post the answers in the archives and the notes as well. And so thank you for all you do. Don't forget, next Tuesday, March 22nd, is our next webinar in our racial equity series, and Sherry Payne will be presenting on cultural safety. So I hope you'll be able to join us. Thanks again, Lynette and Cheryl, and thank you to you all for joining us today. Until next time, goodbye.